Okay. All right. Hello again.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me. I want you to introduce yourself. Of course, I'm Victoria, owner of the Liberation Station Bookstore, and you are?
Angela Shante, author, poet, and teacher.
Yes. So we're excited. Tuesday is the book birthday.
Yay!
Really excited. Yes, yes. And we are just really excited about being able to not only have it in our store, but also to be able to hear directly from you, the inspiration behind it, a little bit about your background, and how this all manifested itself into a piece of work. So I'll let you take it from there.
Whew, long story. So I was a teacher in New York for a while, over 10 years, decided to change it up, came out to California to work in educational publishing. So I was working on the back end, doing curriculum things. Wasn't really my passion. So I started to freelance for a couple of different publishing companies. They were doing trade books and they were doing educational things. They liked the fact that I was a teacher, so I could help kind of guide curriculum and things like that. Met a really dope agent through all of this. And I just happened to be like, well, hey, are you looking for new clients? And she was like, yeah, send me some writing. So I sent her this Noisy Classroom, which is a book about my class. I used to teach elementary, second and third grade was like my sweet spot, but I also taught high school and creative writing at the college level. I've been all over the place. And so I wrote this book and she was like, this is really dope. Let me see if I send it out to people. And it got snatched up right away. Yeah.
So your class was the noisy class?
My class was definitely the Noisy Classroom.
Okay.
I'm very like unconventional. I like hands-on. I like project learning. I'm a loud person by nature. I do a lot of like storytelling and game-based things. And so in my classroom was very much different than other classrooms because my students were able to kind of like explore and figure things out on their own. I'm big on inquiry, and I always used to say like, I don't know, what do you think? I don't, you know. So I want my students to really be, I always say my kids because that's really how I feel about them, but I always wanted my kids to be free thinkers, independent thinkers, and that comes with a little bit of noise, right? You know, you can't expect kids to sit for 8 hours a day, especially if they're debating and having discussions and all of these other things. So I never thought about it as a negative, but I could see some of the younger kids who were coming into, you know, the third grade kind of, you know, like looking and like, oh, well, this is very non-traditional. Some of the parents were a little leery and, you know, everything worked out, but that's really what the book is about. So
I think too, like you can't really find your voice without noise. And I think that's a really important component. I have not read the book yet, which I'm really excited about. I typically like to read books as they're coming out to the public, but I know that there is a socio emotional component to the book.
Sure.
And so this little girl, she is hesitant of entering into this noisy classroom. How exactly, what are some tools that she might use to get acclimated, if you're able to speak on that?
In the book, or kind of,
or just so in general, like what tools did you give your students to kind of get used to being in a classroom?
I really think people, they underestimate kids. Kids are very, very adaptable, you know, and I also think kids are very aware of the things of the parameters adults put on them without intentionally knowing. So if you continuously see one way of being a student, right, or one way that you have a relationship with your instructor or your teacher, then that's all you know, and everything else that deviates from that seems odd, right? And that's what the little girl says in the book all the time. The teacher is odd, you know, like people are gonna think I'm odd, like, you know, like these are things that are not of the norm, but we can really break those molds. And what I did in my classroom is just made it very community oriented, right? Like I'm big on building community. And so for the first like September, first month of school, it was always like, let's get to know each other. Let's be comfortable in this space because we'll be here for, you know, 8 months together. But
think it's really important. I just want to backtrack just really quickly. Like I read a brief article and saw that some of the people that inspire you, Nikki Giovanni.
Yes.
Listen, like, so I'm a poet too, you know, and she was my mentor. I remember actually sending her, I was in high school, right?
I'm jealous.
Poetry girl. Listen, in high school writing poetry, and she was teaching at Virginia Tech.
Yep.
Wrote her a letter and was like, can you read my poetry book? Girl, she wrote me back.
Wow.
And I remember reading Cotton Candy on a Rainy Day in like 4th grade, you know, and I just wonder, is that something that poets just, their natural introduction is to Nikki Giovanni? I mean, her work is so incredibly inspiring. What exactly, of the many things, right? What exactly inspired you through her work? Because that's, yeah.
Well, I think a part of it is, one, she's a Black woman, right? And she's writing about Black people in a way that is so like beautiful and empowering and just, you know, because I've always been a reader. Like I love to read. And I think that article that you're mentioning is like, I was an avid reader. Most of it was just kind of like, just to fill the space kind of thing, and not something that I was like, I really need to read this because it's filling me, if that makes sense, until I read her stuff. And I was like, wait a minute. So somebody is purposefully, intentionally writing poetry to me, and I was at high school too. And I was like, oh, let me read everything by her now. I was so inspired. And, you know, and so that's really how that came about. She's very unapologetically Black, and she writes poems for unapologetically Black women or girls. And so that was something that I really gravitated towards.
She has written many love letters to us.
I got a bunch of books right here.
I mean, but you know what though? Like it sows a seed in such a dynamic way, because she kind of raised my artistry, if that makes sense. I see that her implementing her art in my life from when I was a little girl up until now being a mom or a, you know, grown woman. I mean, she just fits, you know, and she reminds us that we don't have to compartmentalize ourselves, right?
And we can be Black, and we can be women, and writers, and poets, and, you know, like all of these things. That's actually a line from one of my poems.
Oh my God, I mean, she invented the comma. Like, she allowed me to like, continue to be and be and be.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think she really helped me kind of like grow as a writer at that time, because I had all of these emotions that I was like, oh, well, what do I do with these things or whatever? And poetry was really like my outlet for that.
Yeah. What's in the future? Like, okay, your book comes out, debut book, Tuesday comes around, gonna be all over. Like, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? How are you processing this? And what maybe advice can you give to other writers that are trying to get into the industry?
So I think for me, this book took a little bit long to develop, because I didn't want to compromise on the things that I wanted. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to do was work with a woman of color who was an illustrator, right? So I was like, I don't know what books y'all gotta dust off, but y'all gonna find somebody. Find somebody that I don't have to explain certain things to, you know? Like, I feel like when you work with a woman of color, there's just a shared culture that is kind of like, and when I say this, you get that and you understand it. And so the book took a little for me, because I was like, no, I think you can find Black illustrators. I know you can find Black illustrators. Let's just keep beating the pavement. And actually was one of the main reasons why I went with West Margin Press, is because they wrote it into their contract for me. They were like, I mean, because if you look on my Instagram, you know, like I'm all about Black women and women of color. And so they were like, and we know that this is important to you, and we guarantee that any book that we publish with you is going to have X, Y, and Z. So it wasn't the most money. They didn't give me the biggest advance, but they understood me as a writer. And so I went with them. next year, so you said what's coming next, I have another book with them coming out. It's called When My Cousins Come to Town. And it's about cousin culture in the Black community, which again, you see, you get it.
I get it. Right?
You get it.
Gosh, yes.
And so the young girl in the book, and I feel like I always write stories about like young girls, young Black girls. So the young Black girl in the book, she's the only cousin without a nickname. So all her cousins come into town. They live in the city. It's, you know, they're up and down. They're going to, I'm from New York, so they're going to Coney Island. They're going to the Bronx Zoo. Like, they're doing all of these things or whatever. And she's just like, I need a nickname. Like, this is the summer for me, because after my birthday, after we have this party, after we watch The Wiz, which is my favorite movie, you know, my cousins are leaving. So all summer she's trying on other people's nicknames instead of being who she is, to earn her own nickname. And so it's about, it's like a coming of age picture book about a young Black girl in a big, crazy family, and earning her badge of honor as a cousin, as a part of the cousin clique.
Wow. I mean, that is such a relatable part of the Black experience.
Right.
Family reunions, Pookie and them, like, you instantly know that, like, you know, it is a badge of honor to have a nickname. Be able to, like, take that and create that into a coming of age story, I think is absolutely phenomenal.
It's really dope. And we have another Black illustrator on that.
Love it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Love it. I love it. What I will ask, since Alison isn't here, but what attracted you to her art and her illustrating?
You know, I really like the way it's just a fresh take on like illustrations, you know. You know, like, they gave me a couple people to look at, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm liking this, but she had such a big range of what she could do. And then when I first got the first draft back, because I kept in the back of my mind, I was like, I really don't know how we're gonna paint this noise that's like coming out of the classroom. Like, that's such a big part. You know, like, every time she's in the classroom, you see this noise, but it's negative thing. It's so colorful, and so that's a good decision. So,
I love it. I love it.
That's how I picked it. Yeah.
So, how are you celebrating on Tuesday? Can you hear me? Oh, are you able to see me?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
I cannot see you.
Oh, no.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I can see you now.
I can't see you
yet.
Okay.
No?
All right. You back on. Yep.
Am I there? Okay.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. So,
it might be my internet thing.
I don't know. I mean, everyone is using the internet, so it's like super slow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'll wrap it up, because it's saying the bandwidth is low, which means probably a lot of people are like activating. But how are you celebrating on Tuesday? What are you doing?
You know, I've been in the weeds of marketing for a while, been, you know, doing this countdown on like my Instagram, my Twitter. Yeah. And I looked at the calendar, and I kept saying, it's coming out May 5th, May 5th, May 5th, not realizing it's Cinco de Mayo. So I'll be celebrating.
Wonderful, yes.
Yeah, celebrating, do some FaceTimes with my family back home east, and my friends, and just, you know, enjoying the moment. Like we talked about before, you know, with quarantine, books coming out during quarantine is a little bit different. It's not, you know, I had to cancel the tour, you know, and kind of really be creative about like how to get the message out about the book or whatever. But like organizations like yours and businesses like yours have been super dope. So I have a bunch of interviews coming up. I have a bunch of recorded videos that I have to do. And so, you know, I'm just going to keep pushing and enjoying, you know, the blessing of
this moment.
This
is, I think it's a really beautiful book, and a component that for me, I believe it teaches is empathy.
Yes.
You know, and that's what we need during this time more than ever. And it's definitely a piece to meditate on. And so I'm excited to be able to read it with our two boys. I'm excited that you get to bring it into the world during this time, and congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, I just wanted to plug really quickly.
Yes.
This is going to be a series, so I'm actually working on the
Oh my God.
another. So in my head, she's very Miss Frizzle-esque, right? This modern day teacher who's breaking all the rules. And so, you know, I'm trying to work on some the noisy classroom goes to the library, the noisy classroom.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I have a couple ideas in the works or whatever, but yeah, that's what I'm hoping for next up on.
Listen, we're here to support you, and I greatly appreciate you like taking your time today and meeting with me virtually. I can't wait until we can actually get together.
I know. And we can hug.
And we can hug for real, you know, and maybe like go to open mic night or something. I don't know, spit some poetry. Yes, but thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me, you guys.
For sure.
May 5th.
May 5th. Get it at Liberation Station Bookstore. Thank you. Yes. We're excited. We're so excited. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
All right. Bye.
Bye.